I just wanna chill and vibe. Baby girl, keep it real, no lies. She said she's 21, I said alright. If we gon' be grown, then speak your mind. I just wanna chill and vibe. I just wanna chill and vibe.
Hey, what's good, sippers? This is your boy Buddha, and over there's a lovely
baby.
And we coming to you again with a live rendition of Sipping and
Conversation.
Call it Miss Swallow.
Who does that?
We do the show the same way every time, for the most time. But I guess that drink was taking so good, so we're gonna start off with that. What you sipping on?
Watermelon infused.
Ooh.
Like infused watermelon drink. What you sipping on, Buddha?
Some legs.
Some legs.
Just like that. Just like that.
Legs.
So,
legs.
So, baby.
Yeah.
You know what time it is. How was your day? Oh, how was your weekend for that matter?
I mean, you know, it was pretty good. Today was a great day to be great. I relaxed the greater part of the day. It was beautiful outside, so I've been on the patio most of the day. Shoot. How was your Saturday?
Slept, relaxed, watched a couple anime, and, you know, just kind of YouTube up to get ready for football season. It is what it is.
Silpers, we's live. Hey, how y'all doing? How was y'all Saturday? Huh? I'm just saying, how y'all been? We came on here live. We've been doing our pre-recorded shows and stuff, and we've been posting it. So if you want to find us, you already know what time it is.
Oops.
YouTube. Head over to YouTube, all right? And make sure y'all are following us. Subscribe, please. Subscribe. And you already know where you at on Facebook. And how can I say this? If you're interested in being a guest or you have a topic, you need to go to our website, which is buddhaandbaby.com. Okay, and there's going to be a tab that'll say, I believe it says intake form or something. Don't quote me. I'll have it. Okay, don't worry about it. We're going to add it in the comment section, all right, where you can go to it. But fill it out, all right, because that is where you're going to want to get us that solid information and all of that good stuff. And as far as our audio, that's going to be scrolling at the bottom of your screen. iTunes, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Like, you can hear us in a lot of places when you see Sipping and Conversations. Okay, that's where we at. All right.
I'm gonna give a little special shout out. I see some people online.
Yeah.
What's going on, Sadiq? I feel you. Appreciate you. Charles, I got you, buddy. What's going on? It's been a minute since you've been on the show, but it's good to see you out there in these streets still.
Yeah. I'm glad to see y'all came on through, showing y'all love. You know what I'm saying? This is why we do what we do. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm having a Buddha moment, guys. So bear with me, right? Just this past week, there's been a big buzz out there in the streets about, you know, was it 5 or 6 people spending major bucks, $200,000, $250,000 to get on a submarine because they want to see the wreckage of the Titanic. Oh my goodness!
Boy!
Did you see what that submarine looked like? It looked like something that came from old Disney World. Remember at Disney World? They had 6,000 leagues under the sea. And that ride, that went on the way. They don't got to ride no more, but let's tell you how old I am. That's what it looked like.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And, you know, heart go out to the families and friends of those who knew and the loved ones of those who knew those people out there.
Right.
But you gotta have a little more respect for things you don't know, like can't see underwater.
I mean, I would just say it like this, you know, everything ain't for man to be exploring, to be putting their hands on. It's just that. It's just nature is gonna do what nature does, and it is what it is. And you go on out there messing with it, it's gonna win.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Most of the time. 99% of the time, whatever you out there messing with nature with, it's gonna win.
Well, I got a little story on
Some
that.
respect on it.
I got a little story on that. So about a couple years ago, not on submarines, but on my rendition of deep sea. A couple years, I went on a fella's hangout trip, you know, a little day trip. And we went and did some deep sea fishing. Deep sea fishing, right? Before I went deep sea fishing, you know, I'm like, yeah, man, I can swim. I can do all the great things. I'm gonna go to the beach. I'm gonna go all the deepest far as I can out there. Then I get on this trip, and one of my homies, he catch a little fish, boom. But when they brought it in, you know, it's got to be a certain size so you can keep it. And a certain size, if it don't hit that size, they throw it back in, right? So he picked it up there, and it wasn't big enough, so he threw it back in. When he threw it back in the water, we was in deep, way right there. When he threw it in the water, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I said, oh, shit. At that moment, the real blackness came in and said, I am not supposed to be out here.
What came in that sad fish?
I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. I just said to myself, I ain't supposed to be out here.
Yeah, nah.
So,
just saying.
So
the moral of the story is
stay your black ass on land.
Stay where your feet
can touch the ground.
Hello. Just saying. Cause baby.
Nah, it ain't what it's cut out to. But that's my story about deep sea. Now, I done watched all those movies, and I said to myself, in every movie out there, Jaws, Deep Blue Sea, Megalodon, whatever shark movie out there, I always said, why you out there? But you gotta understand one thing, man, and it's real. Every show or TV thing that goes on in social media versus movies and things of that, the folklore, there's a little bit of truth out there in that. Mm-hmm. A little bit of truth out there. Mm-hmm. So
a little bit, because
sometimes, you know, you ain't gonna be like, damn, ain't no real big sea monster really coming out there touching the guy. Or you may not think there's mermaids out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shouts out to the little mermaid that came out there. But you bet your bottom dollar it's real.
Oh, it's real out there.
It's real. They ain't get that from nowhere. Whether they still exist or not, they're dying, breed, or extinct, that's one thing. But just go ahead and understand there's something out there.
Mm-hmm. I believe that there's things that I cannot battle, explain, battle, go up against, and I ain't. Mm-hmm. Cause somebody got to tell the story.
Okay.
Pick me.
All right.
It'll be me. Mm-hmm. I'm the storyteller.
Hello.
I'm gonna tell your story too, honey. I'm gonna tell you.
Good.
Woo!
By the time I'm done, you should have been president.
I'm just saying. So listen, we're gonna go on, get you something to sip on, cause I know y'all went prepared. Mm-hmm. But get ready. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And I mean real quick too. All right, so go on. Blank. Let me see if you can hold your breath for a couple of seconds. We'll be right back.
This is for the simples. Yeah. We sipping in conversation. We sipping conversation. We sipping in conversation. Yeah, we sipping in conversation.
Excuse me. Hey, baby. So what we talking about tonight? Give it to me.
All right. So tonight, what we gonna talk about? Then versus now, right? So do you feel women were more wife material 30 years ago versus now?
I feel like women had more standards back then. Yeah, I suppose, because the younger we are, they adhere to their teachings or what their parents taught them. For the most part, it was hard. It was harder to get the coochie back then. What it was, man. It like back in the day, it meant something to get the coochie back then. It meant something. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it meant something. Now it's just another day at the office. You know what I'm saying? It's another day at the office. But I say that to say this. We are the creators of how life is today. We are. So we are the ones that should take the credit. We are the ones. I'm talking about our generation. We are the ones who take the credit, as well as the ones who should take the blame. Go.
I do agree that for me, as it relates to women being more wife material, quote unquote, wife material 30 years, even 40 years ago, I think that they probably were more. And part of what you were saying, it was a standard that was kind of in place. I mean, we can go back even, let's just say 50 years ago. It was women were the home makers. They would be home with the children, but they were taught that, to take care of the home, as far as, and they weren't giving it up, the goods. And if they did, 9 times out of 10, they were getting married to that person, to that man. And the men knew the woman that the young lady or the woman that he wanted wasn't going to probably be easy, because she most likely probably had a 2-parent home. He didn't want to go up against dad or the brothers. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot involved. Versus now, I'm not saying we don't have standards. Women of today don't have standards. I just think that women of today have a bigger pool, a pool of options, pool to pick from. I think that we got more access to a pool of men that versus what we had back then.
No.
I'm saying because of this internet.
No.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, this go back to what we always go back and talk about. The liberation of the woman. Yeah. So in our time, our generation, we're Generation X, right? Mm-hmm. We're Generation X. So our moms and dads were baby boomers, right? In the baby boomer movement, free love and peace. You know what I'm saying? Burn your bras, sexual liberating. They weren't as contrite as as the parents of the 60s. You see what I'm saying? They were burning bras. They were just starting to buck against the system as it was, right? Right? And then you couple that with Title IX, 72, the Liberation Act, where women could do and be free and have rights to be able to work and vote and do the things and work in a man environment and abolish what
you mean a man environment?
Well, work. You know, they was in a man's environment at that moment in time.
What's a man's environment?
Well, you know, they wasn't able to get paid.
Huh? What's a man?
What's a man's
environment?
Environment where men congregate, right? And do the things that they do. They were able to work at warehouse jobs and get paid fair wage for what they did, right?
Okay.
See, she tried to catch me slipping. It didn't happen. So we were those kids who were transitioning from those parents, right?
Okay.
So at the beginning stages, we wasn't as free, spirited, because we still had those values from their parents still there. They were watered down, but we had that structure, right?
Okay.
As we became the parents, we set a new standard. All the things that we watched on TV saying, wow, that's cool. Like when you go back in 85 and watch, what was that? What was the Marty McFly movie? Back to the Future.
Right. You calling out names like that?
Right. When you go back and you watch the Back to the Future, or you watch all those futuristic shows from back in the day that we couldn't see, like the hoverboard and all that stuff, guess what? We are the generation that made that thing a reality.
Okay.
Right?
I'm specifically talking about not just that, but saying women being viewed as wife material.
I'm on par with that.
I got you.
I'm on par with that.
I got you.
But the reason why y'all were viewed as wife material because y'all accepted and stayed in the role of a woman with that type of structure. When you stepped out of the realm of feminism, and that role of feminism that was back when we were growing up, and became this feminism of equality, and I'm gonna say it exactly like I said. I said what I said. When y'all decided that y'all are equal or better than a man, and you wanted to assume the same roles that we hold and titles that we hold, then you took yourself out of wifey, not you, but some women. I'm not gonna say all, majority. You took yourself out of that realm of wifey material. Now you become husband material. Just say. You got nothing. You became independent. Don't need no help. Don't need nobody to tell me nothing. I can buy my own. I can get flowed out on my own. I don't need a man for nothing but maybe some pepper.
Then you talking about then?
I'm talking about now.
So now you're saying that women are more independent.
No, they were independent then, but they still had value and honor and chivalry, and a man being a man and doing the things. And man, they held men accountable more back then than they do now. Now they like, hell with the man doing what I'm gonna do it myself because I can. I don't need him for nothing.
Who said that?
Well, society. Look at it. You can say no.
Okay. So with that in mind, do you think men were better or let me say this, do you think men were better husband material back then versus now?
No, I think we took a back seat. We take a back seat now than we do back then. I think a lot of us men today want the woman to take charge or assume the position, so we don't have to have that burden to protect or provide. Not as much to protect, but more provide, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in these cases, lay pipe. The roles have changed.
Oh, Buddha. Well, my opinion is women definitely were more viewed as wife material in the past 30 years ago versus now, in part because of the sense of independence, because of having more education, access to great paying jobs, being able to have the opportunities. I'm saying that because of these things that women are now in a more empowered position, it is perceived that they don't want a man. But in actuality, they do want a man, but they want a man that's
compatible.
I wouldn't even say equal, but yeah, compatible in that, okay, you're a great man, but you don't make six figures. Like, let's say I make six figures and you don't. But I'm not going to minimize you, right? As long as you come in, if you coming in and you gung-ho doing your thing, then to me, that's doing what the man, the provider, the man's role would be. On the flip side, if it would have been back in the day, I just would have been home, taking care of the kids, making sure you was fed, do the laundry and all those things. But now I get to take that burden off of you.
But here's the thing.
So
here's the thing. So what I heard, not saying you're wrong, but what I heard is in certain aspects that you put a title on what a man is by not saying how much money he made. Because when I heard you say a man not making six figure, he may not be compatible to the type of woman.
Wouldn't be compatible. I was just using an example that if you looking at, some women do look at, if you ain't making the money that I'm making, then I don't need you. But
you see what I'm
But at the same time, if you're not making six figures, but you coming in with not granted, you gotta make some money. You gotta make some money. You know, especially in 2023 with the cost of living, you gotta make some money. But
I was looking at something, not to go over. I was looking at something the other day about what's a keeper versus a man looking at a woman as being a keeper, right? Versus somebody they didn't want to play with. So the guy was having this conversation about a woman, right? And he was like, "Yo, we went on a few dates. I took her out, I paid." He said on that third date, she was like, "Hey, I'll treat you," right?
Okay.
Boom. So they go out on this date.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go out on this date and it was time to pay, most women would give the card or the money to said waiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
You got me? Okay. To pay the meal.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but this woman gave her card, to him.
Okay.
So he could pay. So the dynamic still looked as if the man was doing the thing, but it really was her. So when in that situation, right?
Okay.
You as a woman who has all the amenities that you already acquired in your life, still showed a little bit of grace and submission in the idea of the structure.
Is it submission?
I mean, you're submitting in the idea of you knew you had it, but you allow him to be a man.
Correct.
So that's submission in itself.
Okay.
Okay. And you allow him to feel, one, that you appreciate him as a man, and you don't ever want the outside world to think anything other than that.
Correct. Okay.
And you giving him confidence in the drive to be who he needs to be for that woman.
Okay. So when you say that, and I totally understand. I get it. All of that. I'm not against that at all. I don't believe in minimizing a man. I would rather just not be fooled up with him before I minimize him because of his lack of, especially from a lack of finance, from a financial perspective. But when but this particular topic, relating to 30, 40, 50 years ago, men versus men and women, their quality of what's the better way? Their views or their standing on in a position for marriage 30, 40, 50 years ago versus now.
You were properties back then.
Right.
You were properties back then. And that's what drove the movement. And not saying that y'all didn't need that. Y'all did.
But we needed it.
Y'all needed to be liberated. Freed. Y'all needed to be liberated and freed.
I want to know where we was going, Buddha.
But again, it's just like a good drink when you're out in public that sneaks up on you. Do you sip on it or do you drink that down and buy enough?
Right.
Well,
I'm going to say this. The intent of the women's liberation had nothing to do with where it morphed. And as far as the equality part was concerned, it was more that, if I'm working at this big firm, why am I minimized to only being qualified for secretarial roles versus we saw what happened with what's the ladies that was the space ladies, the black ladies. And they started with
Nelson. Numbers. That Numbers movie?
With I forget all of them.
With Charles B. Henson.
And so, but they had
Secret of Numbers or whatever that movie.
I forget the name of it. But it was based on a true story. I mean, based on true stuff, right? Yeah. So they were smart enough to do all these things, but they had to be all the way ducked off, do all the numbers, do all the analytics. They were just as good. And I'm just using that as an example. Right. But they were minimized they weren't even classified as what they were, computers. I think they weren't even people. They was, what I'm saying? So
they weren't considered a human being. They were considered property.
Right.
I got you.
So,
and that's what it was back then.
And so that, when you think, and that's just from an African American perspective, okay? But women, period, were faced with those type of situations where it's not like I want to go out here and dig this ditch and build this house, but let's just say my father, all he did was taught me how to build houses and do all these things. Now, I'm not saying I'm gonna get there, but I'm just saying, why am I not able to go out? If I'm willing to do this job, right. I know what it's involved, and I know it's strenuous. I know all these things, but I'm willing to do it, and I'm going to do it. I'm not crying and all of that. Why should I be getting paid $50,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 less than the male counterpart? But I'm out here busting my ass to do this job. So it was, it was really about, hey, view me for my worth
as an individual, a human being,
not just because I'm a woman, right. Where you think I'm weak. Now, yes, as a woman, I remain in my feminine space. Yeah. Okay. I want to be dainty. I don't like the way sticky things. Okay.
Buzz, scared frogs.
All right. I want to say, Buddha. Buddha. Can you get that? Buddha. I want to call his name. I don't want to do none of that. All right. Can I do those things? Absolutely.
But you don't want to do
I don't want to do those things.
All right. But I mean, I heard you. I listened. I disagree.
About what?
About one thing. Like I think women deserve everything they got. But I also think, like we talked in the beginning, like I said in the beginning about us as Generation X, right? I said that we should deserve all the praise for how this thing is trending and moving, because we made the vision a reality, right? We made the vision a reality, but also we got to be able to take the burden and own the product, bad or good, of what happened. And so when you said women's responsibility and where it is their fault as well as the good. So the good of it is, did women need to become liberated and be able to be treated like individuals in the workforce or in society? Absolutely. However, where I disagree with you is their responsibility to make sure that the movement was trending in the right direction. However, you can fire it up.
And I'm talking about, yes, you're right. However, we know that there's forces that are greater than, okay? No different than, I know I keep kind of going back to like blacks and stuff like that. It's not about that.
It's about that
but
too.
It's just an example.
It's about that too.
When they wanted to be the schools to be segregated.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's go.
It wasn't about we wanted to be mixed in and all of that. We wanted the books and we just wanted to have some of the stuff.
No. Yeah. Yes and no. The difference is we couldn't see the forest from the trees. We only could see what we wanted in that moment. We couldn't see 30 years from now how this thing looked. We were more together back then as a unit to do the things we do the things we needed to make sure the family structure was together in black and minorities, right? Yeah. We had better work ethic in certain aspects, right?
Yeah.
We treated the village, raised the child, right? All those things that we're trying to get back now, we couldn't see that because we were segregated. We were working together to fight a common goal. And now, we trying to get back. We trying to have
in the bucket.
Right. And we couldn't see that then. Our parents couldn't see that then. The only thing they could see was we are equal and we have equal opportunities as everybody else in the world, and you're going to treat me as such. Right?
Yeah.
But guess who was
present day? Why am I working 3 times as hard?
Guess who was banking on that? The other people. Did other people seen that and gave us what we wanted in anticipation of we are going to be these people right now? Black on black crimes. Snitching on each other.
Well, because if you give a little bit, you give one person or you give a group a little bit more.
They gonna hang themselves.
That's,
we couldn't see that. We couldn't see that we were gonna put the noose on our whole necks.
yeah. I hope we get back to unity.
Mhm.
And so with that, what do you think are women's peak years?
Peak years as far as what though?
When do
We
you
talking
think
about
a woman
sexually?
is in her peak years?
Her peak years between the ages of 35 to about 55. That's where they.
Big broad.
It's a 20, because they're seasoned. They got a real. I mean, most women have vision for themselves, but at an early age, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at 35, they're starting to see fruits of their labor for real, for real. You don't think so?
Go ahead.
I feel like they're starting to see the fruits of their labor. Then they had a few children. Their children have grown up a little bit, right? The motherhood is still there, but now they have a freedom to actually do certain things for themselves because their children can pretty much stand on their own too and survive out there on their own in a capacity. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And that begins their searching of who they are and what they like in life.
Okay. That's what you think. Okay.
I could be wrong.
I mean, it's no necessarily per se,
What do
but
you
I mean,
think?
I can look into it. I say a woman's peak years is actually more latter, like in like 45, at least 40. But I'm gonna go with 45 to 55.
When you say peak as in what? In life or
Peak in life, peak across the board. She's in a place.
of knowing who she is.
Of knowing more of who she is.
Okay.
Now you're talking about older, potentially adult children. They may or may not have been married, and if they were married and they got divorced,
I can see that.
you know, she's in another stage in life, especially if she got married, let's say 20 years old, 21, you know, and then she ended up getting divorced in her early 40s, like 40. So she were married pretty much the most of her adult life,
Right.
20 some plus years. She was married, one man, her 2-3 kids, 4 kids, 1 kid was with this one man, and
Well, I mean,
they moved on. So that's why I'm saying peak, as in from 45 to 55.
So, same question to you, but for men, when you think their peak years are?
A man's peak years.
Go ahead.
I think a man's peak years is between 30 and 40.
Wow. Okay.
And I think that because just I feel like men, that's like for them, they in their prime, they looking good, you know, they feeling good. They might be, you know, starting or maybe been a few years in their career and so forth. So they got a couple of dollars, you know, they might, you know, things like that. You know, they feeling real snazzy. They feel like a grown man.
I mean, I understand. I get it. I think it's tiered.
Tiered.
I think it's tiered. I think it's 2 tiers, and is a great space in between.
Okay.
I think in our 20s is our peak years as far as sexual prowess, right? And being able to get the job done. Not saying in our 30s, from 18, 20 to about 29, 30. If you want to get that real sexual experience more often than not, you're going to get it from that man, that type of man, right?
Okay.
Most older women, they go back to get that type of stuff. Not saying we can't do it. I said somewhere in the 30s from 30 to 40, we us as men have come to the realization of where we are in life,
Okay.
whether we like it or not. So that's the flux here. So we're not where we want to be. We're coming into where we really want to be. And then from 40, about 45 on up, as a man, you should have that direction of where you want to go in life and moving in that direction, and nobody can tell you nothing about that.
All right.
So I think from 20 to 30, sexually, we killing the game.
Okay.
You know, we swinging off chandeliers. We got all the stamina. You know what I'm saying? All the pause work. You don't even have to stretch when you have sex. All right. You know what I'm saying? And then come by 45, you know what you can do and what you can't do sexually. You know how much money you're making and what age, what tax bracket you need to be in order to get the woman you want.
All right. Okay.
In your 30s, you're figuring it out. You figuring it out if you ain't married by then.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Do you feel that women are more valuable in their peak years? And why?
Well, in your peak years, would you say from 45 to 50? 45
45, 55.
So going based on your peak years, absolutely, they're valuable. Because more often than not, they have their own set of resources.
Okay.
Right? They have their own money. They have their own direction. They done lived the life. They know what worked for them and what didn't work for them. And they're not going to waste anybody's time.
What do people say? Huh? Make sure y'all put y'all comments in the section, you know, the comment section below, of course, okay? Because this is real interesting, right? Value. Now, this part is, I'm asking, is in the man, I ain't got to that part yet, but the man or the woman and or the woman's peak years, do you think they are of more value? I say a man is not of value to me in his peak years.
Okay.
Because that is the time where he's really feeling himself. He's more into, I mean, it can be beneficial later, yes, but when he's in his peak years, he is about grinding, setting the foundation, which I'm not saying that's nothing wrong with it, but I don't need him. I want him to be situated.
I can see what
I would say in a man's peak years, he would not be of value to me.
Understood.
So what do you all think? Buddha says there's tears.
It's tears for a man, but here's the thing about what
and the first tier is,
my first tier is that 20, that early 20 to 30 range where, you know, we're looked at to be for your prowess. You may have money, you want to experience life, but sexually, most of those peak women, they don't look at seasoned men for that satisfaction and gratification. They go back and get the younger man to get their back blown out. Right?
That's
but the funny part about it is the young woman is looking for that 45 seasoned man for that stability that they're looking for in life, right? So it's the yin and the yang effect. It's the opposite thing. It's the opposites that attract each other in these moments.
Correct.
Just
and then so with that, it's not unusual that you will find older women with a younger man
if they're not married.
And a younger woman,
i.e.,
with a older man,
i.e., entertainment.
So then, 30 years ago versus now, do you think the views of the men, the peak years of a man from, let's say, 30 years ago, the men from 30 years ago, what do you think the peak years were still the same?
No.
Me either.
No, I think at an early age, back in the 60s and 70s, the early age, it was more about family structure earlier in life. Meaning that if you didn't go to the military, or if you didn't go to college, you got yourself a trade, you got yourself a family, and you worked it out early. 21, 22, 23, you're married, you're building a family, and y'all doing it together.
Yeah.
And we were the products of those parents. So now you're on your own more to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? We as people, we're on our own more now to figure out on our own now.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I do think that the quote unquote peak years for a woman, 30, 40, 50 years ago would have been earlier, and it was more before the childbearing due to being able to procreate. And so her peak years would have been between 18 and I would say 23. She'd have had 18? Those childbearing years.
18, you sure? I was thinking 15. But
yeah.
15 to.
I know, but I'm saying I didn't go. I only went back no more than 50 years. Now we done went back.
I got you.
Greater than 50 years, then yeah.
I got you.
But I think cutting it at around 50. Move it 50 to the 30 years ago. Yeah. So I think it was more important I won't say more important. It was more, the woman was of more value to be able childbearing capacity.
Okay.
Because again, the building of the family,
right? But it was
always more important.
Yeah, but it was okay in the 60s and 70s to have 7, 8, 9 brothers.
60s and 70s.
Yeah, it was okay to have 7, 8, 9 brothers. By the 80s, it's 2 max. Women was like, the hell with that shit. You only get 2 out of me, and I still love you.
By then, you got men, like you said, men they were going to the army, well, just in the military. There were so many things, so many factors going on when we started getting into the 80s. Drugs. A lot of men went to the military, came back home, okay, and they were not in the right head capacity from what it was, orange. What was that? Vietnam and all the different things that was happening. I mean, so a lot of women had to go to work.
Right.
So they weren't gonna be able to. They had what they already had, and then they probably let them drop one of them off right quick, like you know what I'm saying. One thing, oops, baby. One thing I
remember, dog. Just dog. I call you dog, like your buddy, your homie and shit. But we are friend. Right. One thing I know, what I've learned in my life, MFer is more willing to listen when they broke and they ain't got nothing versus when they got money. And there's nothing you can tell them then. So
which MFer?
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about human.
So a person is more willing to listen when you're broke.
Hell yeah.
than when you got money.
So like, think about where we at in life.
What y'all say?
Think about where we at in life, right? Mm-hmm. When you ain't got nothing, you trying to get it and you want to understand it and figure it out for the betterment of who you are personally or your family, right? So you're listening, taking all these ideas to come up and formulate with your own plan. Mm-hmm. When at that moment, when you start making the bread, more often than not, your true self come out. And it ain't always good. It ain't always good. When a person got money, now you saying nobody ain't got nothing can tell me that because they ain't got it. Which is good. But when you season that little bit of attitude and self-righteousness because you made it with it, that's when it becomes negative.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So again, and then that's just me. The more money you get, the harder it is for you to listen.
I mean, it can be, but if you don't forget where you came from, I'm talking just.
I mean,
if you don't forget where you came from, you had to learn. Okay, you had to learn. So in order to learn, you had to be listening. You had to take advice. You had to do the things to get the stuff. All right. But yeah, so then versus now. Women, Buddha thinks that women were more wifey material
back then
than
they are now.
And they are now.
They're more husband material now.
I do too think that women were a partial. I'll say I'm partial. And the reason why I say I'm partial is because now, because of these opportunities, women have more capacity in this day and age to be of financial assistance. She's able to do a little bit more because just technology has advanced. All the things, like, I ain't talking about him in a bad way, but let's just say, for example, he's not the most computer literate.
No, I'm not.
Okay. And so, because he's not, and I am, and we are in a technology time, together we win, right? Just saying. And to me, not just because of that, duh, but because those, I'm just using that as an example of an opportunity that's available where the women can be of more assistance in the home.
Okay.
Not, with things where before, back then, you were limited and everything fell on the husband, the man. And I know, I believe that was a heavy burden for a man to have. First of all, he was taught that he had to do this, that, and third because he was going to be the man. He's all these things, all the man stuff, right? You taught that as a man. And then when you get laid off from your job, how you going to take care of your family? How you going to do this? How you going to do that? Especially if everything ain't flipping quick enough. So now you got this burden that's leaning on your brain, and then what you going to do? Many men walked away from their families.
Yes, upon me. No.
Just said many men walked away from their family.
Okay. Well, I just think, and that might be left or right on this. I think that, well, first thing I'm gonna say, as men, we got number one, we need to step up
Now versus then or
No,
then?
now.
Like now.
We got to step up and be men.
Okay.
Right? So I'm directing this at us as men need to step up and be men. What does that look like? Being pillars in your community. Raising not only your child, children in the community to be upstanding citizens in the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping women, not for the gain of what they can do for you, but for the existence of us as a species, right? So I'm gonna talk to men like this. However, on the flip side of that, right, I need women to understand what your role is in the demise of the Black man in today's society. Own it and move from it, right? And figure out a way to build our minority men back up in a way where you don't feel like you need to lose yourself.
And you're saying this to the men too?
And I'm saying what I need to say to men as far as being accountable, stepping up, be a pillar in the community, take on the challenge to make sure our minority people, men or women, are getting the proper information, love, and protection, regardless of if they're your child or not. Don't look at these single women as what they can do for you in that moment versus what they can do, what their child can do for us as a culture 20 years from now.
Right.
But and the flip side, I was talking about women and owning their role and the demise of the minority man, and figuring out a way to uplift them without losing themselves, because what they ain't gonna do is lose themselves.
Okay. I wouldn't say it was a demise.
Okay.
So, but that's your view, and I get you, and that's as a man, that Black man, that's what you see, that's what you saw, that's how you feel. But when you speak on demise, a lot of it was a bunch of tit for tat, in my opinion. Women did what they did, they responded. It was like, for every action, there's a reaction, right? So when the man started, I mean, not started, because they never not was whoring. They never not was out in these streets. They never not had multiple families and children and all of that. They never not, ever not had that. Okay. Right? But when they started forgetting home, right? They start forgetting home, taking care of home base. Okay. Excuse me. So when they stopped taking care of home base, while it was outside in these streets, then the reaction was, I tell you what, okay. You thought you first of all, you know what? You know I came from good stock, okay? So I can level up, partner. Okay. Same, right? So boom. So now the woman done leveled up and started reacting to the action that was in place. And so, yes, the problem is, I ain't gonna say problem, I won't call it a problem. The challenge became, we petty. So we go too far. So that's what happened. See, we went too far with it. Okay. Because the door opened, and when the door opened, we went in, boom, shakalaka, boom, right? So now, we in this day and age, we in today, all this done happened, We done got degrees. We done got a few dollars. We done bought our own house. We done bought our own car. We done been cuffing coins. We done been doing all those things. You know what I'm saying? And so we good now, like, right? So the problem then became that many women forgot that, I ain't gonna say forgot. Many women have come to the realization that I don't need a man. I am not my grandmama and them. I am not them. I'm not them.
Okay.
However, I would like to have a mate to do the nice things and all that and longevity, etc., etc. I would like that. But I'm not willing to endure what took place to bring me to my now. That's the biggest problem, because again, as I say, for every action there's a reaction. So it's not about the demise, but I will say to you women, we gotta let them in to hang themselves. We already know what we don't want. Okay, we know what we don't want. We done built the world around what we don't want. But it's now time to not start from the beginning, but start from the experience that we accumulated, right? We can start from it. We can start from experience, and we can allow our men into our bubble enough, openly, willingly, with a pinch of vulnerability, so that they can at least show us who they are, and we will believe them. We gotta start not just giving other people grace and mercy. We have to start giving ourselves as women grace and mercy, because that man is not the person that created the turmoil to the women.
Okay, I've seen some people saying something. You want to go through that, and then we can close it out if you want.
All right. Oh. What is a woman's role in the demise of the black man? Don't worry about it. I had you, sis. I got you. Women stepped up because we got tired of our men stepping out on us and letting us down. Now it's to a point we've decided to step over them.
And then you answered the question of where the demise happens, sweetheart. I mean, you answered that question of where the demise happened. See, at the end of the day,
she did not.
Well, yeah, when she said step over.
For every action,
hold on,
that was the reaction.
No, it wasn't the reaction, because I go back and I tell you again. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the percentages of women who's choosing the money over the structure of family. You see what I'm saying? We talked about this. This all goes hands in hand, right?
Okay.
So when
you said that, and we'll close out.
When women decided that they didn't need a man for whatever reason, maybe he was a scumbag, or maybe whatever reason they didn't need him, right? That male structure was taken out of the home, right? Once the male structure took it out of the home, and you realize you could do without a man, it created a different breed of child.
Yeah, potentially. But if I'm going to compromise a toxic home,
it wasn't about
for the sake of having a man in the house, I'm gonna take dog. I'm gonna bet on black. Me, aka me. I'm gonna bet on me.
instead of finding another male who has the example that you need for that family structure, you decide to bet on you.
Well, yes, in that it is not to bring another man in the home is also a risk, especially having the child be him take care, him being now accountable for the child. Now, granted, yes,
I feel
the cow and the cow and the calf. He want to be in a relationship with me. He assumes the role of the father of the child. Yes. However, in order for me to be in a position where I'm comfortable enough where there's another man gonna come in to rear this child of mine that, you know, has a biological, that's where it gets real shaky. So it's not that I don't want to have a male figure.
It's real shaky because people ain't communicating. You point blank. If you have a man in your life, you should tell said baby daddy or child father, this is what's happening, right? You should. Because you want to have 1 foot in, and in certain circumstances, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, right? And you feel like, oh, baby daddy crazy, he killed this man, and whatever the reason might be, because and a lot of that happens with women too. A man can't even be a part of their child life because they got a girlfriend, and you ain't gonna have no other girl around my man.
Well, you know, and it's funny because the whole conversation tonight was about then versus now, right? Mm-hmm. So then we knew about Sally Mae on the other.
Same day. We both said Sally Mae.
4 blocks over. We knew she had a baby from my husband. I already knew it. But you know who was the common denominator that kept that glue together? Big Mama. Mm-hmm. All the churn.
Because it was bigger than...
They always... Big Mama, no matter what me and Sally had going on, Big Mama was like them siblings. Mm-hmm. And they need to know each other. Right. So they don't mess around and have churn with each other. Go cope with each other. Okay? Right. So y'all need to make sure... I'm gonna make sure this is where they're gonna be at, and y'all just duke it out on your own. But over here, this is the neutral grounds. Okay. But back to with your question about the child support part, and because we had this question that was about child support, you want the money or the bond with the dad? Right. So I had a few people that actually chimed in on this, and they were like, I want to spend the time with my kids. Him to spend time with the kids versus getting the child support. Right. Many people said, why is this even an option? They didn't hear the whole video, so so that's fine. But if you want to hear the whole video, go to YouTube because there's more to why that specific question was asked. Okay. Depends on if the parent is even interested in the child. That was something. Again, why both they want both of them, and I agree. But if I had to pick one if you had to pick one or the other,
Well, I mean, so I'm gonna tell her that, which is, everybody's entitled to their opinion, correct? Mm-hmm. There's no right or wrong answer to that. It's just where we are in society, right? Mm-hmm. However, for me personally. Right. For me personally, in my young parenting stage, right, and as a young dad, we don't always get it right or wrong. I definitely got it wrong because I chose me. Yeah. In the beginning, I chose my feelings. I chose my idea of what was right or wrong over the bigger picture with my children. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And sometimes in these relationships, you don't, as an adult, don't get over the hurt. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get over the hurt, you're breeding that type of child who doesn't have the compassion or the empathy or the sympathy in society because you're hurt.
Understood. So when we asked the question, it was a car blog. And so Buddha said that he felt that 70% of women would favor getting the coins. And so I was like, no problem. Let's just put the poll out there. Let's just see what the comments say. Mm-hmm. So that's where what I'm repeating is coming from, the comments from women. And they pretty much were saying what I said. I forget what my percentage was. I think I said 60.
Yeah. You was more thinking that more women would want.
I know more women. I said more women would want the bond. And the comments pretty much spoke for that. Being in the presence of the father is always more favorable. Money helps, but the parent's presence is more important. Physical. On all day for me. Of course, like I said, many would like to want both. And then they said, one says, I believe relationship is paramount. Mm-hmm. The relationship is crucial for the development and success of my child. I can financially support my child.
So, and that's good. And
that's just
that's good, and I can respect that from a seasoned person now who has children. And most often than not, the children are grown now. I get it, but from a personal experience, and a lot of men who said the lie. As much as
it's like they did. No one really said. I mean, there was only a few
men who was like, yeah.
They want to get the money and
they want to get the money because eventually, like, this is another topic for another day.
Right.
Eventually, this is another topic for another day. But some women or men, no matter whoever's the custodial parent, I'll put it that way. Whoever's the custodial parent thrives and want to have that control over what outcomes that the child has when they're in their space or when they're in the parents.
That's the problem. And that's a whole nother conversation because that's the problem, the control aspect. So right now, to go ahead and start closing it out, the failure of a black man is not on a black woman. It's in his lack of discernment and self-reflection.
Again, that is her opinion. I respect that.
Correct.
I respect that. And I'm not going to do what Buddha would normally do. And I will leave you with grace. On that.
However, it says, the conversation now says, these kind of conversations are wonderful to help empower healthier relationships between black men and women. Keep up the great job, you two. So, it's not that you are right or wrong, or she's right or wrong, or anyone is right or wrong. Everyone has, many people, I won't say everyone, but many people base a lot of their comments and things or conversations on their experience, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because what do you really have? The baseline is the experience or someone else's experience.
Right.
And if they had a bad experience, that's all you got to go with. Or, whatever it is. So, general, and it's understandable that you have your baseline becomes the experience. But I'm a firm believer in that, yes, that was indeed your experience. Then, back then, we didn't have all these things. But now we are dealing with this. And in order to, in the present day, as you said, we need to have these conversations so that we can bring it to the table and not from It's about facts over feelings. At the end of the day, it's facts over feelings. The fact is, men and women have created this turmoil.
Or this narrative.
But men and women can also fix it.
Right. You get on. I'm gonna add to that, and I'm not gonna be gender specific. I'm not gonna be gender specific. You can only be a leader of people if they're willing to follow. You can only be a man, the man in a household if the family structure is willing to follow. You can only be a parent, a true parent, and do right by your children if you don't allow outside influences to affect how your child is raised.
That's gonna be challenging.
It is
because of just having access
to the now. But you can be in tune as a parent. A parent today, you can be more in tune.
But you definitely need to be more in tune with being active. Right. I made a comment to him. I won't go in detail. Being an active listener.
Right.
Being an active listener means you're not listening to respond. You're listening to understand in its entirety, right? You're going to be asking questions to the man, to the woman, to the children. You're going to get everybody involved, make everybody, be involved. But then at the end of the day, the man and the woman, mother and father, husband and wife, you guys come together and y'all make an executive decision on what needs to be done. It don't matter what's going on outside in the world, but because together, y'all the family, y'all the unit. Because if you don't start somewhere establishing a new narrative, establishing that foundation,
right,
then versus now versus futuristic then, is going, what you're looking for in 20 years from now.
Right.
What are you doing today for 20 years later? You know what I'm saying? Now, we know we live in a short-lived time and, all these things happening and all of that. But be your greatest self today so that you set yourself up for tomorrow.
Is there?
Yeah. Symphony Conversations.
We have it again.
Buddha and Baby.
We having a cup live for you today. Hey, listen, this shirt is real. Possessiveness is not love.
Huh? Okay. Then versus now.
We sipping in conversation. Sipping in conversation.
Beat me up, Scotty. Beat me up, Scotty.